everyone. Welcome back to an exciting episode of Fanzone Debate. We're here for the first match post Mayhem, and we're looking at a little tiny little title picture here. To kick us off with the title picture, we've got Will Cohen versus Jack Pinchuk. Both have debuted, lost in their debut, but are looking to get back into it. And get a win on their record and maybe have a chance to go for a title. So on the desk with me today, we got Brian Michaels. Brian, how the hell are you?
I'm doing all right. It's going to be nice to see some different people here after you've kind of seen the same people through the whole tournament. So we get to start a whole new season and get into that. I'm going to be most fun watching Cody tonight to see if he is as tolerant of Jack Pinchuk as he is during YLS.
That's fair. Speaking of Cody, Cody, welcome back to the judges' seat. It's been a while because, we started to have people you were going to play very soon. So you had to step away from judging for a while. But now you're back to judge this one. How are you feeling about the match?
I think this would be like a special kind of hell if either one of these got to the title shot to face me, because they both jokingly, non-jokingly piss me off, in general, with their antics and behavior. So I just think of a 5-round fight between one of these guys would be awful. Good news is they're playing each other, so I can't just do a no vote. So it should be interesting. Their topics are just brings all the audience to the yard. I mean, can't wait for those classic fans to come in and hear arguments about that. But no, it should be fun. It should be fun. I'm excited to get back out there and find out who I'm fighting soon.
Yeah. All right. So we'll start by talking to the lower ranked player, Mr. Pinchuk. Jack, welcome back. I had you scheduled for a match, and then you messaged me and you said, Tim, I really want to play again. So I took you off of the schedule then after you messaged me. But then Nick kind of convinced me that I should probably have you play again. So you're here and you're playing Will. How are you feeling about it, Mr. Pinchuk?
I feel pretty all right. Debate has always been the one area of the game that I'm not good at, mostly because I'm not really good at speaking. But you know what? We'll see how this goes. I feel confident in my answers for the vast majority of them, and I'm just excited to get another shot at it. I know my debut was, we'll say, less than stellar, but you know what? It's I'm just happy to be back.
Awesome. All right, well, we'll bring in Will. Will, welcome to the show. You're back again after, I believe did you debut against Brandon Cohen? Is that what I did to you?
I absolutely did, yeah.
I had the Cohens play each other. That was mean of me. But Will, you're back. You're someone who does like to talk a lot, and I think feels confident about it, which is why Cody said you piss him off. Will, thoughts on playing Jack and your return to debate?
Jack and I get along. I don't know whether or not I aggravate Jack and he just politely tolerates me because he's Canadian, or if he actually genuinely likes me, especially since he manages me in another league. But Jack, this is gonna be a lot of fun. Jack is really really fun. Honestly, I thought you guys had completely forgot I played in Fanzone, because after my last match and either making a complete ass of myself or just a complete nightmare fuel that were some of our answers from that match, I'm surprised you guys just didn't say, let's just lose his file and file it under B for burn alive. But I'm here. It's always great to see Cody, whether he wants me here or not. And Brian's been a hot minute since I've seen him. So I think this is going to be a great time all around.
Yeah, I do too. I'm looking over the questions right now, and we actually have some really fun questions, some different types of questions that we got tonight. So thank you to Brian, Cody, Kirk, and Mark for coming up with those. So we're going to get into this. This is how this is going to work. There are going to be 4 prep debates based off of 4 categories that the players drafted. Each of them picked one from Fandom, one from Melee, and they're going to debate those questions tonight before our very souls. So they're going to get 1 minute to open their arguments, followed by a 5-minute free form, followed by a 1-minute closing at the end of the debate. Brian, Cody, and I will write on our handy dandy boards, which is sitting over there, so I will go grab momentarily. who we thought won the debate. 2 out of 3 votes wins you a point. First person to 3 points wins the match. If we're tied up after the 4 prep questions, we will go to a bonus question. So, are there any questions from the competitors?
Let's have fun.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Then let's get into it. All right. We're going to kick this off with the first category, which I believe was drafted by Will in the category of musicals. Your question is as thus: which post-90s musical has the best songs? Best songs. So, Will, because you drafted this, you're going to get to kick it off. You get
Okay.
1 minute to open your argument. When you start talking, I will come in to give you a 10-second warning. So, whenever you start talking, 1 minute.
So when I thought about this question, I thought about the one that has not only the best songs, the most memorable songs, but also the songs that just elevate your mood, get your toes tapping, and still has a great message at the end of it. So I chose 2007's Hairspray. From the very get-go, you open with Good Morning Baltimore, which is just such a light, airy, great song, but there's just little bits of hilarity in there. You go on to things like Run Till Dat, which is, a song about some of the racial injustices. You have the song, you have the great villain song in Miss Baltimore Crabs, sung by Michelle Pfeiffer, the incomparable Michelle Pfeiffer. And then on top of it, you at the very end of it, you have the great end song in You Can't Stop the Beat, which if you are not toe tapping and dancing by the end of that, you have no soul.
Time. All right. Jack, we'll move over to you to tell us which post-90s musical has the best songs. 1 minute when you start talking.
So from the 2000s onwards, there's been no shortage of great musicals, and with that, no shortage of excellent songs and musical numbers. From tearjerkers like This Was Me from Everyone's Talking About Jamie and Little Fall of Rain from Les Mis, to rousing ensemble pieces like America from West Side Story, to One Day More and Do You Hear the People Sing from Les Mis, and beautiful solos, and beautiful and powerful solos like Valjean's Soliloquy, I Dreamed a Dream, and On My Own from Les Miserables. And while trying to figure out which musical has the songs that I think are the best, I asked myself 3 questions. 1, how well is the musical regarded as a whole? 2, do people know the songs outside the context of the musical? And 3, do the songs effectively convey the emotions and messages they intend to? With all that in mind, I cannot think of another musical that has better songs than Les Miserables.
Okay, time. All right, so Les Mis versus Hairspray. Hey, I've seen both of these because you guys keep talking about this fucking Jamie movie. All right, 5-minute freeform when one of you starts.
So I find it really interesting that, when you're talking about the best songs of a musical, half the songs that you listed on there don't even belong to Les Mis. That's kind of an interesting way of going about your argument, Jack.
That's interesting because, well, first of all, these songs they're from the Les Mis production. They were adapted from the stage musical to film and done wonderfully well. I have a question for you. You said memorable. I watched Hairspray this morning for the first time, and I don't think I can recall the beat to any of your songs, let alone the lyrics. Les Mis has incredible musical numbers from... Oh, geez, sorry. Words are hard. Les Mis, so many of the songs from Les Mis are widely regarded as the greatest songs in all of just musical theater, if not the best. Even songs like Suddenly were nominated for Oscars for Les Mis.
Yeah, and that song Suddenly is suddenly forgettable because it was actually the worst song, despite the fact being made for the movie. Whereas with the rest of the songs, yeah, they might be memorable, but they are downers songs. They are known for not completely rising, except for like maybe one song, which was, let's face it, done better in South Park, Beggar Lager, and Uncut when it was parodied there in La Resistance, whereas with with Hairspray the musical, the majority of those songs, if not all of those songs, were complete originals for for the musical, which this was completely adapted from. And it is absolutely toe tapping. If you don't remember any of this, then you have to check your memory banks, my friend, because these are just wonderful songs. There's no better, there's no better lyrics, no better beats, no better wordplay. And all these songs are completely danceable, whether it's the smooth, evil waltz of Miss Baltimore Crabs, whether you're getting up and toe tapping to Run Till Dat. You can, like you, even with your notes, couldn't even mention any of these songs that were mentioned in this. So if you want to talk about forgettable, clearly you don't remember Les Mis either.
I'm sorry, but people know the songs from Les Mis. Like I've been in the musical theater community for a while. The only song I could maybe name from Hairspray was Welcome to Baltimore. Whereas in Les Mis, you have Look Down. You have I Dreamed a Dream, which is one of the greatest songs in theater history. You have Drink With Me, a beautiful, somber song. You have One Day More, one of the greatest Act One enders ever. You have...
Which was done better in South Park.
Do You Hear the People Sing? Which, if that isn't like a rousing ensemble piece, I don't know what the fuck is. There are...
But you see, but you see, Jack, the question wasn't which is the most noticeable, which is the most well known. This is the best musical. Which songs this has? Which musical has the best songs? And in the context of those, sure, they are pretty good. Whereas with Hairspray, whether you're listening to it in the context of the musical or whether you're listening to the soundtrack, just track versus random track, you can pick and choose whatever song you want, and it's still going to be a great song even if you don't know the story behind it. And so that's why Hairspray definitely excels where Les Mis doesn't.
Okay, maybe outside of the context of the musical, there are songs that work for Hairspray. One song that doesn't work at all in Hairspray is I Can Hear the Bells, which is just really creepy. I'm sorry. The lead character, whose name escapes me at the moment because this movie's so fucking forgettable, and the songs are as well, is essentially her stalking this guy that she likes because he spoke to her and touched her once. Whereas
I'm pretty sure that there's a similar song in Les Mis where where the innkeeper's daughter is pining over a guy that she can't have just because she has the feels for him. So really, if you look at the songs, they're kind of similar, but at least with Tracy Turnblad's song, if you actually would have seen the movie, when she's singing it, it's supposed to be goofy. It's supposed to be, a fan falling in love with a figurehead, which that's the kind of song it is. So it perfectly works for the movie in the context. So yeah, but a lot of those songs back then were, during the 50s and 60s, a lot of those songs were kind of creepy anyways. And so your argument is completely invalid because it works with the period perfectly.
I'll just save my...
Okay. All right. So Jack, you get to kick off the closings first. You have 1 minute when you start talking.
I'm sorry, but if your defense for that song being really creepy is a lot of the songs from that time were creepy, that's not a good defense. Look, even if we're just breaking the musicals down song by song, Les Mis wins. If we're going song by song, Look Down apes Good Morning Baltimore as an opening song. I Can Hear the Bells, creepy as shit. I'm sorry. A Heart Full of Love is a beautiful love song where both people that are the subject of the song are participating in the song, and instead of one stalking the other because they were spoken to by them once. The Legend of Miss Baltimore Crabs doesn't hold a candle to Stars as a villain song. Legend of Miss Baltimore Crabs is about a racist white lady singing the song, how she won Miss Baltimore by banging the judges, whereas Stars gives you insight into Javert's mindset, his motivations, why he will never stop his pursuit of Jean Valjean. No matter how you cut it, Les Mis wins.
Okay, we're going to bring in Will. Will, you have 1 minute when you start talking.
I'm sorry, but like Stars, being sung by Javert is actually showing his confliction about, searching for Jean Valjean, his inner confliction, whereas with The Legend of Miss Baltimore Crabs is about her, about an evil person being evil. So if you want to try and compare villain songs to villain songs, you lose. Whereas with, the opener, comparing the openings, Look Down is a bloated song where you have so much going on, whereas with Good Morning Baltimore, it's crisp, it's clean, it makes sense, and it tells a story that, it opens with a story that you can tell right off what story you're going to get. Les Mis does have some good songs. I'm not going to say otherwise, but this question was about what has the best songs, and by, pound for pound, easily, with these toe-tapping songs that mean something, even to this very day, Hairspray wins flat out.
Time. All right. I'm going to bring in the judges.
I'm really conflicted because this is about, like, we're arguing the movie, correct? Like,
from the movie, yeah.
Okay.
It's practicing my points, I can speak well, but when I'm actually arguing them, I can't.
Yep.
Shit.
It happens to me all the time. My argue with Cam, I had like 7 different things I was going to bring up and never brought any of them up.
Okay, so I like both of these musicals. I don't like the Hairspray movie very much. I saw it when it came out. I was in the production and I really liked the stage show, so it's like the movie's just okay for me. I haven't seen it in years though, since I was in the show, so I've just always liked the show more. But it's not about the quality of the movie, it's just about the songs. Whereas like I fucking love the Les Mis movie and Cody thinks I'm a piece of shit. So I love it. It's great. So this
I don't think you're a piece of shit. I love you.
Okay, great. Thank you. I love you too. I'm going with Will. Now, don't get me wrong. I think that actually when we started out, I thought Jack had a really strong opening. He had a huge blunder, not by saying these are the songs that are the best, and then couldn't name any because he had a fuck up. I get it, but woof. But I thought he did a good job of bringing it back, and making it at least semi-close. But I think Will just did a very good job of tit for tat everything Jack had to say. The villain point at the end I thought was super strong, where Jack brought up Stars is a really great song, but Will was like, if we're comparing villain songs, like mine is a true villain song, yours is kind of a contemplation thing. So overall I thought that, again, I like the songs in Les Mis more, but I think that Will had the better argument. So Brian.
Yeah, I think this one started off a little rough. I think that's, you can tell both these guys have been sitting on the sidelines for a while, shaking off the cobwebs, things like that. So, but I think as it went on, it got better. Ultimately, I did vote for Jack. Actually, I think that his argument got stronger toward the end, especially in his closing. I thought he did a better job of talking about how the songs, what were kind of tied into the context of the movie, and how maybe Stars isn't necessarily a villain song, but it kind of told what was going on in his mind. It conveyed a lot more through the song. So slight edge to Jack.
Hey Cody, you're deciding this one.
Yeah, I thought this was an interesting debate. I think there's ways that they could have tackled it. They're basically like songs and then like tie into like really movie at all. And it was always the classic, well, your song is forgettable as shit, which doesn't ever hold any weight because it's just like, of course you're going to say that because that's the part of the debate. I think if somebody picked up vocal performances or the actors portraying the songs, I think it would have swayed one way or another overall in the thing. But we just stuck to like, is your song ethically correct, or it's the 60s and everybody's creepy, so just deal with it. I was weirded. I love Les Mis overall as a favorite musical. The movie is absolute horseshit. Hairspray movie quality. I like it a lot. I think, but I had to go with Will because I just think there was more takedowns from Will's side, and Jack had that fumble. But I think overall it was closer than it could have been.
All right. So Will wins the first point. We're going to move on to question number 2. This was drafted by Jack in the category of YA, the fandom category of YA. So the question is, or statement maybe, add a non-Maze Runner YA character to the Maze Runner that would be the most helpful. So Jack, you're kicking this off. You have 1 minute when you start talking.
The Maze Runner poses plenty of unique challenges. A bunch of miners are left in the center of a large, complex maze that changes every night with no memory of their past except their names, and are given zero instructions about what they're supposed to do or how to get out. Instead, the only thing they're given is a monthly supply of goods and things that they can use to keep living. Another mouth to feed, and still no information on how to escape the maze, which is patrolled at night by monstrous creatures known as grievers. Alice Cullen is absolutely the most useful character to add to the to the Maze Runner of all the other YA franchises to put in the Maze Runner. As a vampire, she has enhanced speed and strength. She can see the future, which is an incredibly useful skill while running through the maze, and doesn't feed on people. There's plenty of things that Alice could add to the Gladers, and I'll just save the rest for my freeform
time. Okay, we're going to move over to Will. Will, you have 1 minute to open your argument when you start talking.
If there's one good thing I can say about the Twilight franchise is it gave us a lot of great characters with a lot of great powers that could obviously help out the Gladers in the Maze Runner series. But I chose the one that I thought was the most beneficial, which is Benjamin, who we get to meet all the way out in Breaking Dawn Part 2, who has control over the 4 elements. So water, fire, earth, and air. I think that this would be absolutely beneficial to the Gladers because that way they can, there's tons of ways that they can defeat the Grievers, and there's tons of ways that they can even just get out of the maze. And even once they're out of the maze, once they're in places like the Scorch and things, places like that, having someone who has control over all the elements would be absolutely beneficial. Roaming around in the desert, boom! Now all of a sudden we have someone who can find you water. They can just short that maze as well. Come on, Benjamin, perfect.
Time. Okay. So Benjamin versus Alice, 5 minute freeform when one of you starts talking.
So the issue I have with Benjamin is that while he can control the elements, he can't just straight up create them. Whereas Alice, if they're running through the maze, she could be running through the maze with the runners and keeping pace. And if they take a wrong turn, she can see the future and see they're going a wrong direction and be like, "No, we have to turn." And then if they're short on time, she can just carry them because she has super speed, super strength. Whereas Benjamin, what's he going to do running around in the maze?
Well, the thing is that you brought up that vampires have super strength and super speed, so Benjamin clearly has that as well. But also Alice's psychic powers have actually been proven to be very inconsistent throughout the Twilight franchise. Hell, Edward almost got himself killed because Alice had a faulty vision of Bella dying. And so obviously we can't 100% rely on Alice's powers, where they're all around the elements are all around them in all of the mazes and in the Scorch and everywhere. And so while he can't just create things out of there, he can sure bring them up. There's still water in the desert. There's still water that can be condensed into pulled out of the air. There's still all these things that can happen, and that's something that's absolutely beneficial to those Gladers.
Okay, I'm just going to be honest. I clearly don't remember how it was Alice that got Edward almost killed. That seemed like something that Jacob orchestrated by being like, oh, Charlie is preparing for a funeral, as if it was Bella's, and then he goes to Italy to be killed by the Volturi.
Because Alice is the one who told him, who told Edward after
She
receiving that
saw
call that she was
Bella
dead.
jump off a cliff like an idiot, and then she went to check up on Bella. But
And
whatever.
she can't pick up the phone?
The other big issue is Alice doesn't feed on people. Benjamin does. Benjamin has the choice. All vampires have the choice whether to feed on people or animals. Benjamin chooses to feed on people. Those gladers, they're fucked. They can't defend themselves against Benjamin. Whereas the slicers, they butcher animals and whatnot. So there are animals for Alice to feed on, but what Benjamin just chooses not to.
And you don't think that if he made an agreement with them that he would just choose not to? It doesn't say anything about that. So even and quite frankly, there's a lot of bad people that they run into. Do you think like after they right before they get abducted by Wicked again and the Scorch, that there wouldn't be tons of people that they would say, hey, Ben, you can definitely feed on Jansen. You can definitely feed on that prick played by Alan Tudyk. You can feed off of those guys. There's plenty of bad guys in there that they can clearly feed on, which would be absolutely helpful with his strength and his speed.
Okay, yeah, but the issue is they've been in the maze for 3 years, as said in the movie. That's 3 years of no bad people for him to feed on. What's he gonna do?
He can easily have the walls of the maze shrink into the earth, have the earth open up, have the walls go down, boom, they're walking out. So that's pretty beneficial, and then they get to meet the bad people once they're out of the maze.
Okay, lovely. The Wicked designed the maze so that Wicked has defenses in the maze so that they cannot just climb over the walls or go or do anything to like cheat their way out. They have to run. They have to find their way through the maze and go through the Griever's home, which is, I'm sorry, I don't see how they'd be able to use Benjamin's power to get their way out of the maze. Plus,
and
Wicked
yet, do you think Wicked had fail-safes in mind for someone like Benjamin, who can control the earth, who can control air, who can control water? You think
assuming
that
he's a part of this, I would assume they would, yes.
Oh, but you see, it didn't say that. It just says added in. It doesn't matter. It doesn't mean that they prepared for it. So you're trying to incorporate something that's not in the question. The question itself is who could you add to benefit this? And easily Benjamin, with all those powers, has that over Alice because Alice's visions are just inconsistent.
They're only inconsistent when Bella is around because she is a shield and she can't, or when werewolves are around, except for when it's the final battle and the movie just forgets about that. Her powers don't work at those times. Though that's the canon reason why her powers are inconsistent.
Yeah, that's a lot of reasons.
Strike it from the record. We're going to start with Will. Will, you have 1 minute to close your argument when you start talking.
Let's face it, unless you actually read the books or read the lore, that's the only way that you actually know that those are the quote unquote only times that her visions are inconsistent. We don't know. All we know is that when it comes to pivotal moments, half the times her visions are extremely inconsistent. So Alice, unfortunately, only can offer super speed and super strength. Benjamin has super strength and super speed, and he can have control all the elements. Do you really think that they were prepared for their maze to just be completely cratered around the glader so they can just walk right out of the building? Probably not. I can almost say with absolute certainty they can't. But that's only one thing. He can control fire. He can control air. He can control water. There's tons of times that would absolutely come into play for for our people in the Maze Runner and the Gladers. Yeah, okay. If you want to give Jack's credence, he likes to feed on people. There are tons and tons of bad people, and they all look like snacks to Ben.
Okay. All right, we're gonna move over to Jack. Jack, you have 1 minute to close your argument when you start talking.
Look, I'm not saying that Ben there wouldn't be a little helpful. He probably would be. However, we're talking most helpful. Alice can see the future. She can guide them through the maze. She can get them to the Griever's home. And then when they reach the Griever's home, they can go back and have a plan of attack. Whereas Benjamin, I'm sorry, but assuming that he's added into this, that means Wicked put him in. That means they have safeguards for his powers. The maze isn't going to fall. And even if, and because of that, they were in the maze for 3 years. How long is he going to go without being able to feed on people? He's not going to feed on animals for very long because he thinks it's disgusting. He's going to feed on people, and he's going to start picking off bladers. Alice doesn't feed on people, is used to feeding on animals. She can see the future, guide them through the maze, get them out. Yeah.
Okay, sounds good.
I lost my voice there.
Yeah. What a way to end it. I love it. Oh, that was great. Oh, man. Yeah. All right.
Jack, do you feel a little dirty like promoting either of these goddamn characters?
Look, Alice is one of 3 characters in this franchise that I don't hate. It's her, Charlie, and Carlisle, and she's the best of them. So
That's a weird top 3.
I agree with that. Actually, that's a fair statement. Those are the 3.
They all suck.
Okay, Cody,
that's
your
also a fair statement.
So after the first fight, I had my thoughts about Jack through this debate. I think Jack, like Mike Tyson, his way through this round, and I think every time Will brought something up, Jack just punched him straight in the face, and I thought it was very, very well. Like, he's like, Benjamin can't feed. Well, they can make a negotiation. They can feed a bunch of people. They've been there for 3 years. What is he snacking on then? It's just like everything he counters, like, well, there's a lot of people to snack on. But Jack basically countered, and then he waited till the very end to say, yeah, their powers could diffuse Ben's, but gave Will no chance to say the exact same thing about what could happen to her. I just think Jack clearly ran with this one. I just think it was like every counter punch. And then the vision thing also is like the vision. And he brought up the moment, and he's like, well, that's the only one we ever see in the movie, but there could be more. I just think it was well done, especially after the first fight. I thought Jack was going to have a long night. So well done, Jack.
Thank you.
Interesting. This is one of those famous Tim and Cody disagree. I went with Will I Am because I think that this was close. I think that there was here's where my head was at. I thought that the Will's point about the visions being wildly inconsistent and almost like never working the whole movie up until the end. Movies up until the end, and even then it's like it doesn't fit in with the lore that they've set up. I thought that was like awesome, and I thought Jack's hit about the that he only eats bad people only eats people, doesn't eat animals was a good thing. So it was like those were the 2 big things fighting each other, and I thought that Will's just like Jack's whole argument about why Alice was good was that like she doesn't eat the people and she'll get them through the maze. Those were the 2 things. And Will was able to convince me why she might not be able to get you through the maze and why Benjamin would be helpful beyond the maze in the Scorch, with the creepy Alan Tudyk character, with Jansen, and all those other things. So I do think it was close, but I had to kind of the two big arguing points that I thought were really strong, and then I kind of had to dig through to find, okay, they each have a counter. Which counter am I leaning towards? So it was tough. I agree with Cody. I think Jack did way better in this one than the first one. But I went with Will. Brian, you're deciding this one.
Yeah, so a little peek behind the curtain. The original question that was proposed was just what fandom character would be most helpful. And I suggested let's limit it to a YA character because otherwise it's going to be all just people with superpowers or the Force or things like that. having not seen the Twilight movies, I didn't realize that was still going to leave a lot of people with superpowers. Didn't know they had powers beyond just being werewolves and vampires. So that's what it turned into. I thought Jack started out strong, especially talking about how excuse me, Alice could see the future and that she didn't feed on people. Those were, I think, the two strongest points. But I think Will countered those very well because again, I'm going by what he's saying, having not seen the movies, but he talks about how her vision's inconsistent, they're unreliable, sometimes faulty. So that kind of countered that. And as far as the not feeding on people, Will tells me that he can choose not to feed on people, which again, not even seen the movies. I'll go with what he says. So if he can choose not to feed on people, it's not an issue. And as far as the whole thing about them being there for 3 years, I don't think that saves it, because if these superpowered people are there, they're not going to be there 3 years. They're going to be there 5 minutes. If he can actually make the walls fall and things like that. So I did end up voting for Will.
Okay. All right. So Will goes up 2-0. That means that Jack needs to hit this next one in order to stay in it. This was drafted by Will. It's in the category of Law and Order.
Okay.
And this is a fun question. I believe this is a Kirk Kolakowski question, so thank you, Kirk. You have been kidnapped. Which Law and Order character do you want to rescue you? So, Will, you get to kick this one off. You have 1 minute when you start talking.
Tim is 100% correct. This was one of the most fun questions I've ever had in any kind of debate. And so I thought about this, and I thought about the character who could work outside of the confines of the law and who would get me home before I was in captivity for too long. I went with Thomas Gabriel from Live Free or Die Hard. This man can find anything on Earth. He can find anyone's contact information, and in a world of electronics, especially now, everything is either low-jacked, connected to the web. They would easily find. They would easily find me. He would easily find. He would easily find my kidnappers and either convince them he's either going to ruin their life or let me go, or he's going to come after them himself, and they're going to have a really bad fucking day.
Time. Okay. We're going to move over to Jack. Jack, you have 1 minute when you start talking.
If I've been kidnapped, I know the type of person I have the best chance of getting out alive with. Someone that can get in and out of places pretty much unseen, is loyal, and will put their full self into saving me instead of just tapping out when it gets inconvenient or to protect their own interests. Has experience in a situation like this, and if it comes to it, is skilled with both weapons and hand-to-hand combat. With that, Chief Inspector Lee, played by Jackie Chan in the god-awful Rush Hour movies, is the only choice I would go with. Man is an insane martial artist, has rescued kidnapped victims before in the franchise, and they, lived, which is great. And you know what, Thomas Gabriel? He's not going to do shit himself. He's going to send one of his goons, and if those goons fail, why is he going to risk himself? I'll yield the rest of my time.
Okay. Ending about 5 seconds early. Thomas Gabriel, Chief Inspector Lee. So, 5 minute freeform when one of you starts talking.
Okay, so if you're going to bring in associates of these two characters, the person who's obviously going to slow him down the most is his loyal friend, Detective Carter. Detective Carter slows him down. And he's going to make him a lot more visible. He's not going to be invisible, like you just said in your opening. He's constantly spotted. He's constantly getting the crap beaten out of him, and he's constantly getting himself put in captivity throughout the franchise. Whereas Thomas Gabriel does not give up. Even when his goons fail, he brings in other goons. He realizes Plan A doesn't work. Plan B is going to work. But you know what? This is not a grand government thing. He's not trying to rob a grand thing. He is trying to get one kidnapped person out of captivity. He is going to do that in 10 minutes or less.
Look, Thomas Gabriel, tech savvy, very tech savvy, tech genius, honestly. Here's the thing, though. Useless in a fight. He got disarmed by Mary Elizabeth Winstead's character, John McClane's daughter, who has no military or combat training at all, and was bested by her and was held at gunpoint for a brief time there before one of his goons saved his ass.
So you think that Lucy McClane did not have any kind of training from John McClane? You think that
hang on, Will, you talked for a minute. You got to let Jack talk. You got
sorry.
Yeah, no. All good. Considering the fact that she's very much estranged from her father and wants nothing to do with him, I would argue no, she hasn't seen him in years and doesn't want to, and therefore hasn't had any training from him. Whatever. The thing with Thomas Gabriel is he's useless in a fight, even with Carter slowing him down and just being the fucking worst character. Lee is able to rescue Sue Young, or whatever her name is from the first movie, and get her out alive, and he does it again at the end of 3, even with Carter slowing him down and being a total jackass. Thomas Gabriel, tech savvy, useless in a fight.
And how are you? Why do you think this is going to go to a fight? This is not. These guys are. Do you think that there's a complete army kidnapping me? No, more than likely it's only going to be a handful of people, and these are not going to be the dream. These are not going to be genius people at all. These are going to be people who are protecting their self-interest. The reason why the guy probably was kidnapped is probably for some kind of ransom money. And so, what's Thomas Gabriel going to do? Do you think he's going to wait for the law? No. All he has to do is just give him a quick call. Go, hey, you have 2 options. 1, let him go, or B, I'm going to make your life a financial living hell. Or, hey, he's a criminal. Who's to say, okay, here you can pick it, you can pick up your money at this location, at this ATM, I'll release the funds, you let him go.
Yeah, he's a criminal.
It's right. But what's going to be more useful in a kidnapping? Someone who's going to be confined to the law, or someone who can work outside of the law and find me a lot quicker and get me released a lot quicker? Detective Lee did save Soo Yi twice, but he almost got her killed multiple times during that time period, whether it's his own foolhardiness or whether it was his friend Carter's foolhardiness.
Let's be honest. It was Carter's foolhardiness. Guy's the fucking worst. If we're being honest here, I don't want a criminal to be the one to rescue me, because that's going to cause problems with the government and me, possibly, because that's just vigilantism and possibly cyber terrorism, if we're being honest. I don't want to be associated with Thomas Gabriel. Inspector Lee is a respected man in the law, can use the tools at his disposal to find me, rescue me, and even if Carter is there, get me the fuck out of there alive. I don't want Thomas Gabriel within I don't want him within a country mile of me, if I'm being totally honest.
And so, and yet he doesn't have to be. He can be 3 states over. Give him a call, and he can find me and get me released, because he's going to convince those criminals to release me, because he is absolutely savage. And he is not only savage, but he is also tech savvy, but he is convincing. Obviously, he has all these goons because he was able to convince them to be on his side. So chances are he is going to convince them to let me go without any kind of fight whatsoever. I'm home by dinner time.
Okay. Will, you get to close this one first. Or no, I'm sorry. Jack gets to close this one first. So Jack, you get to close first. You have 1 minute when you start talking.
Look, if I've been kidnapped and I have to have a Law and Order character save me, I'm assuming this is like one of those Law and Order movies where I'm actually kidnapped by some people that know what the fuck they're doing, and it's not just a group of ragtag group of people. Inspector Lee can use the tools he has within the law to rescue me, to find me. He's very good at that, very efficient at it, even with Carter slowing him the hell down. He's very good with hand-to-hand combat and weapons. He can get me out alive. That is the goal. Whereas if Thomas Gabriel is the one rescuing me, he's using resources outside of the law, bordering on cyber terrorism and just general vigilantism. I don't want that to reflect onto me and get me in trouble with any governments at all, whether it be US or Canada or whatever. Thomas Gabriel, not a good option. Inspector Lee will get it done.
Will get it done. Strike it from the record. We bring in Will. Will, 1 minute closing when you start talking.
When you're kidnapped and when you're fearing for your life, do you really care about whether Johnny Law comes or Johnny Criminal comes to save your life? No, you really don't. What you want is the person who is going to get your ass home. And Thomas Gabriel can do that. He has proven that he can take down a government in about an hour. So imagine what he can do when trying to get you released from jail. He can either release the funds, release funds and pay your ransom through some shady methods, or he can convince them that he is going to ruin their lives forever. Inspector Lee is obtusely bound by the law to the point that he is often proven to be a liability. And at the beginning of Rush Hour 3, the person he's protecting dies. So obviously he is not a great protector. Whereas Thomas Gabriel, I'm home by dinner.
Dinner. Strike it from the record. Okay, we bring in the judges.
I'm really trying to keep my knowledge of these films out of my head here.
That's fine. You guys ready?
No.
Okay.
And sorry, I'll try and keep an eye on the time better.
Cody goes. Brian goes first. Brian goes first.
Yeah.
Sure.
So when I first heard the answers, my first instinct was kind of scratching my head at Thomas Gabriel. But my own reasons aside, I listened to the debate. But Jack brought up the same thing I was thinking about, which is, he has the abilities, but I wouldn't want them to call him because he's not going to help. He's in it for his own interests. He wants to know what's in it for him. He's about protecting himself. And that's something I think Will never really came back to or defended against properly. So I gave it to Jack.
Cody.
Yeah, I was really torn on this one because I think it was a weird part of the fight where they brought other people into it, like whoever's around them, but that's not the argument. Like, you subtract them from whatever environment they're in and they're the people. Like, that's how I took the question. Like, if you're kidnapped like this. And Brian had the same thought I did. Like Thomas Gabriel was like, that guy can do everything, but probably won't do everything. And Jack kind of countered it with that. And I think with Carter, and I had to fact check it because he's bound by the law. But I was just like, Jackie changed it. Well, Lee goes against the law all the time in all three of the movies. Like, you're not supposed to go in this spot. Stop. Like, I think the first one or whatever, you've been pulled from the case, you're no longer on it, or one of them, and he still does it. Like, they still go and they argue. So I had to fact check that. Like, he doesn't, but he doesn't. The whole movie is going against it. So I had to go with Jack.
All right, my vote doesn't count. I also went with Jack. I think that what?
You're the worst.
I also went with Jack. I think that I agree with most of what my fellow judges had to say. I think that Jack did a really good job of kind of saying just like, this guy's not going to come and help. I think that Will had an interesting approach. But if he was going to choose like a villainous character, there were other ones who were more physically able, or maybe even like more like anti-hero type characters in the different franchises that he could have picked. I think it was just a weird pick, ballsy, and I think he tried his best, but I think Jack also getting the first pick on the question hub, I think Lee is a really, really good choice, and he did a really good job arguing it. So that means we move on. Gotta fucking talk about classics now. Your question is in the category of classics, something that me and Brian love a lot. And the question is, what is the best Ingrid Bergman performance? So Jack, you get to kick this off. You have 1 minute when you start talking.
Ingrid Bergman has proven time and time again that she is one of the greatest and most versatile actors of Hollywood's golden age, or just in film in general. From her softer spoken performances such as Casablanca, Anastasia, and Notorious, and Stromboli, to her more fierce performances in Joan of Arc, Saratoga Trunk, and the film My Opponent Chose. However, only one film she's been in gives us the perfect blend of those two performances, of those two sides of her as an actress. Gaslight, a psychological thriller where Bergman gets to cook like never before. Bergman puts on a performance of a woman that thinks she is losing her mind because her husband is essentially gaslighting her. Spoiler alert, I guess. And she sells every second of it. In turn, making the audience feel the same way. I'll save the rest for the freeform.
Cool. Okay. We're going to move over to Will. Will, you have 1 minute when you start talking to open your argument.
So when looking at Bergman's filmography, as someone who's not as familiar with Ingrid Bergman as Jack is, I had to look at a performance that was absolutely multifaceted, that was, that was a deep, enthralling performance, and that's why I chose her performance from The Visit. She shows all the range that she can have. She's, joyous and happy 1 minute, and then she's conniving and just almost bordering on evil at times, because hell hath no fury like a woman scorned, and when that woman's scorned by an entire town, that town is screwed. But but not only that, we get to see her be vulnerable, we get to see her be softer, and we get all of that in The Visit, whereas we don't see that in a lot of other films.
Time. Okay. I don't know what you guys are talking about. 5 minute freeform when one of you starts talking.
So my problem with Gaslight is that I only got two emotions from Ingrid Bergman. I got confused. I got confused, and I got upset. Those are the only two emotions I got. I saw her I saw her convey. She does those well, mind you, but when she's doing things in The Visit, we get conniving, we get conspiring, we get angry, we get upset, and we get these moments where she's gleeful in this, and that's just so much more affecting.
Here's the thing. Her performance in The Visit is a very good performance. Okay, it's a good villain performance, but at the end of the day, that's it. Gaslight is a haunting portrait of a woman's mental health just deteriorating and going down the drain throughout the course of the film, because she thinks she is losing her mind, and her husband keeps reinforcing this fact in her, and her performance reflects that perfectly. From the scene where her and her husband go to I believe it's an opera or some kind of a musical performance, and she finds the ring that she thought that she had lost in her purse, thinking, I didn't put it there. How did it get here? And her just completely breaking down, to the cathartic ending of her getting her revenge on her husband. And you get that fierce, that terrifying, honestly, performance, because she's completely turned the tables on him, and it is the most satisfying performance she has ever done, and just honestly her best.
You see, and to me, that that ending after all of that just came through as like rather snarky rather than cathartic. She was turning the tables, but he didn't look scared, and she didn't look that satisfied to me. Whereas with the visit, not only was she not only was she basically impregnated by by this figurehead of the town, but she had the entire town have witnesses set against her, and she was driven out of the town. Imagine what kind of psychosis that's going to cause on you, rather than your husband going, "Oh, well, I told you you put it there." When she, in all fairness, she didn't. So that's going to have more of a psychosis, forming there, and you actually see the full gamut of that. You see her coming into town, just cheerful and happy, and saying, "I'm going to donate all of this money to the town. Oh, but there is a condition. You have to reinstate the death penalty, and you have to find this guy guilty and send him up to the death penalty." And you get to see her change. You get to see her shift. And then you get to see her when she's finally confronted with him head on, face to face. You get to see her vulnerability. And that vulnerability is just a wonderful thing to see. We don't really get to see that vulnerability.
I genuinely, I'm listening to what you're saying, but I don't know what you're talking about when you say vulnerability. She has one moment where she essentially tells her story, what happened to her, why what happened to her, and why she was ran out of the town, and what happened to her child. And that's really the only vulnerability you get from her. The rest, she's just a conniving, evil woman who's trying to get this man killed because he wronged her. And like, sure, fair, he ruined her life, but she's come back from that. She's now an incredibly wealthy woman, has bought a bunch of the town, and has essentially bankrupted it. But her performance in Gaslight, what do you mean you don't see the satisfaction on her face? You don't see the fear on him. She is coming at him with a knife. Like, how do you not see this? He's bound to a chair and she has a knife in her hand walking up to him. And I don't understand how you don't see the fear in there, how you don't see the satisfaction when she's finally free and she realizes she hasn't been insane the whole time. She's just, she's been lied to.
Compared to the visit where she breaks down in front of Anthony Quinn's character, who's the one who sent was the one who got her banished from the town. She's angry with him. She's furious with him, and then she has that moment. You told me you loved me. You told me we can still run off together. We can still run off together. She's crying. And that you can still feel that she still wants what the heart wants at that point. She doesn't really want to see him die, and that's where it's heartbreaking. That's where you actually see that catharsis there, whereas I have never felt more blasé with a woman holding the knife in my life.
I didn't hear the words before it. Strike it from the record. Okay, Will, we're going to close with you first. You have 1 minute when you start talking.
When I watched Gaslight, I was hoping that ending would be more satisfying, that it would feel more gotcha. And it doesn't. Her performance was so stilted compared to the compared to the visit. I just didn't get that big catharsis moment like I should have gotten. Is it still a good performance? Yeah. But is it good? But is it better than her performance in the visit? Absolutely not. Because where she does only one or two emotions really well in Gaslight, she does all of the emotions really well. She does this wonderful evil laugh that will send shivers down your spine. She, the two-headed nature she has throughout the entire movie is just so glorious, and you watch her gleefully, just make essentially try and bankrupt the town even further in order for her to get the result she does. And it is just so thrilling and evil. It's wonderful.
All right, we're going to bring in Jack. Jack, you have 1 minute when you start talking.
This is without a doubt Ingrid Bergman's most versatile performance, her best performance. It's the one she won her Best Actress Oscar for, beating Barbara Stanwyck for Double Indemnity, which is an all-timer performance. Ingrid Bergman is good in The Visit. Good. I cannot say that enough. She's very good in The Visit. There's nothing else there. She's giving a good villain performance, has good moments, and one truly great moment at the dinner where she announces her intentions of returning. There's nothing special there. Whereas Gaslight, you see her descent into madness, and when that catharsis comes and she realizes she's not insane and her husband is tied to the chair and she's coming at him with a knife, and you see the glee on her face and just and the vindication in her. Just, there is no comparison between the two. She wasn't even nominated for The Visit. She won for Gaslight. The Gaslight is by far the better performance.
Time. Okay. I'm convinced that, you know, all of the Kingsmen at one night just like got on a call. Mm-hmm. They were in with somebody. They were like all together in real life. They took a bunch of classic actors and actresses, put them on a dartboard, and then threw darts and said, "Okay, that one's my favorite now." And then just like watch their whole filmography.
Facts.
I'm convinced that's what happened, but I could be wrong.
Question.
Yeah.
Can I take off a point for stuff in people's backgrounds?
What?
When Jack goes full screen, there's a Blu-ray copy of Cat in the Hat that keeps flashing on my face.
I have that same
and he, that's a crime. And like you wanted higher than just DVD. You went Blu-ray. It's been blinking for too much. Way too much. I just keep seeing it. I was like, son of a bitch. My Cat in the Hat's still there. I guess Tim gets to go first on this one, right?
Yes, I do. Are you guys ready?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if it's just me. Have you guys seen these movies? The four of you, the two of you?
I've seen both.
Brian? No. Okay, this sounded like the same movie to me. I got confused. I didn't know what we were talking about. It sounded
they did sell it as they were defending the same movie.
I think by the end I was kind of able to figure out, like, just based on the fact that the gaslight was like, I get the picture. But there was a while there where I was like, I don't know which movie we're talking about. Like, you sound like the fucking same movie. The question is best Ingrid Bergman performance. So I was listening, having known, I don't even know what Ingrid Bergman fucking looks like. So I was
Casablanca.
Oh, so I do. I have seen the Ingrid Bergman movie. Okay. The main chick in that. There you go. Okay, fair. And so
I got you.
Forget it, Jake. It's Casablanca. I think that
that was great.
It's my favorite joke I've ever made in my life. I went based off of listening to them and what they were telling me about the performance. There was a lot about like, this didn't work in the movie and that didn't work in the movie. And I was trying to listen to the performance and like, oh, she looks angry. No, she doesn't. Well, it's like, I don't fucking know. I went with Will. I think that
I love that name.
Will was able to tell me more about and give me a better picture in my head about a more varied, versatile performance, and was able to tell me why the performance in Gaslight, while good, was more one note. Jack was not able to convince me, and Jack threw in the whole Oscars thing at the end. That did nothing for me whatsoever. He was like, she won Best Actress. I'm like, well, where was that 7 minutes ago? Because Will didn't even have a chance to say anything about that. So I thought that was a cheap shot. But so I went with Will. Brian.
My biggest takeaway from this was amusement that Jack pointed out to us that in Gaslight, her husband is gaslighting her. It's like, yeah, that's where the term comes from. We get it. But yeah, I kind of felt the exact opposite of Tim. I give it to Jack. I think that that Will talked a lot about, like you said, a more varied performance. He gave like he gave a list of different kinds of emotions. So he gave a different number of emotions she showed. But I thought Jack explained very well how even if most of it she's kind of giving the same emotion, it still shows her descent into madness and that kind of thing. And at the end, I didn't think it was a cheap shot. I thought it was smart. I mean, just point out that she wasn't even nominated for one film, and his film won. If Will didn't want to bring that up, I mean, obviously, because his would be on the losing side of that. But I don't know. People always bring stuff up in the closing and don't give people a chance to fight back, and it's not cheap. It's just strategy.
Cody.
Yeah, so I just saw both these, one recently because of one of these people, and they didn't pick it. They picked the movie for me to watch on Roundtable, but then they picked the opposite. Yeah, seeing both. It kind of, and I swear, me and Tim are friends. Like, we disagree a lot, but me and Tim are really, really close friends. I went with Jack, and I don't hate Will. It's just what I think was like the counterpoints. Like, he brought up all those scenes, and then Jack just was able to counter scenes back and forth, like, well, I don't know what you're talking about with this scene, and like describe scene by scene of like why her performance was really good, even though I believe her better performance is in The Visit. I think Jack had enough knowledge of the situation to be able to put himself in the correct spot. And I'm kind of with Tim, kind of not, like on this one, because the Oscars, I don't think Will can say anything because technically she did win for this and didn't win for the other. So it doesn't, like, I don't know why. Will has no business bringing that up because it only hurts his argument. I agree that it probably better in freeform, but it was just an added at the end. It didn't hold a lot of weight in my eyes.
Okay, so what this means is we're moving on to a speed round question. This is how this is going to work. This was a happy accident, and I'll explain why later. But we put Melee and Fandom on a wheel, spun it, a side was picked, then a category was randomized based on what side was picked, and a question given for it. So what's going to happen is I'm going to read the question. I am then going to repeat the question. Once I have said the question twice, you guys will be able to answer the question aloud. Whoever says their answer first will be going first. And then the second person to answer will be going second. So you guys will each get 45 seconds to start and then 30 seconds to end. So no free form, 45, 45, 30, 30. You can use your time however you wish. Any questions about how this is going to work? I say this is a happy accident because the category that was randomized was the exact same that we would have used in the title match. So I got to use the question. I didn't have to write a new question for this, which was great. So the side that was randomized was Melee, and the category was coming of age. So your question is, who is the best adult or mentor character in a coming of age film? Again, who is the best adult or mentor character in a coming of age film?
Okay, I have my answer.
All right, go ahead, Will.
Mr. Bruner from Edge of 17.
Okay.
I'm going to go with Owen from The Way, Way Back, Sam Rockwell's character.
Okay. All right. Those are two excellent picks. All right. So remind me again, Will, Mr. what?
Mr. Bruner.
Mr.
Bruner.
Mr. Bruner versus Owen. Will, you're going to be going first. So remember, I'm going to stay on screen for this. Since it's shorter time, I can give you guys your countdown. So, Will, you are going to get 45 seconds to kick off your argument when you start talking.
Mr. Bruner from Edge of 17 is the teacher that refuses to talk down to his students, but understands his students. He understands their plight. He understands what they're going through, but he refuses to. He refuses to talk down to them. If they're being stupid, he just tells you you're being stupid. But if if he sees that you're honestly struggling, he will go out of his way to help you. He will pick you up from a party when you were in danger. He will hold your hair back if you are vomiting when you drink too much, and he will take you back to his house, feed you, give you a life lesson, and then take you home. That is a heartwarming guy who has his shit together and who is extremely helpful. And that is why Mr. Bruner is perfect for this question.
Time. Okay, Jack, 45 seconds.
Owen from the way back is the reason that the main kid is able to come out of his shell. Duncan is able to come out of his shell. He sits down with him. He listens to him. He gives him a job at this water park and just lets him be himself, where he doesn't feel like he has to be someone else for his mom or his stepdad. He is just a genuinely nice guy who wants to be Duncan's friend, wants to connect with him, and he does, and he is the reason that Duncan isn't so much of a sad, lonely child. At the end of it, he actually has friends. He's able to make connections. He reunites. He reconnects with his mom because of Owen.
Time. Okay. Will, 30 seconds.
Owen connects with the kid basically because he's essentially a grown-ass kid himself. And while that's helpful, while it's great coming out of the shell, he's not really learning a lot of life lessons at the end. He's just learning to be himself. Whereas with Mr. Bruner, the character is learning to be herself. She's learning that her parent, she's learning to reconnect with her mom. She's learning her life lessons, and she's seeing her faults in as well.
Time. Okay. Jack, 30 seconds.
You say Mr. Bruner cares about these kids, and while I'm sure he does, he also brushes off Nadine's suicidal thoughts, which could seriously end up fucking this kid up in the future. Owen, yes, he's just a man child, but you know what? That's what Duncan needs to bring him out of his shell. His relationship with his mother is better at the end of the film because Owen is able to connect with him and help him grow as a person.
Time. My lord.
Hey, regardless of what happens, good game, Will.
Oh, absolutely.
Hey, I didn't get knocked out this time. That's all I can ask for.
I got more than 1 point the last time.
Hey.
Yes, I have to go. I can imagine the shit that fucking Tim's right on his board.
All right, Cody, you're gonna kick us off with this one.
Okay, I just want to say I do not hate Will. I voted against you a lot. I ended up voting against you here also,
Figured.
and that's no shot. I think it was close. I think it was a very, your opening was really strong, and I think if you had a counter, you'd have to do it. But I think Jack's closing was super strong, where he painted the picture of, yes, he's a giant kid, because that was your big takedown, but that's what he needs throughout the film, and it helps him reconcile with thing. And I think one of the hardest, takedowns is, he also pushes off the suicidal thoughts of Nadine, which is problematic, which sucks because it's in the closing moments and you don't get a counter, but that is a crucial part of the film. So I had to go with Jack. Thank gosh there's two other judges, but that was my pick. I think it was really close though.
Well, we said it before. Cody and I disagree on a lot. This wasn't one of those times though. I went with Jack Attack from the Incredibles DVD disc 2. And
Good help.
I should really. I think I kind of agree with everything Cody said. I think that Will's these are two really good choices. Will's choice was actually the first one I thought of when writing the question. Jack surprised me with the Owen pick. It's a great pick, and I think that the question saying best character, not who is the best mentor or who is the best adult. It's just who's the best character, and I thought Jack did a really good job of explaining why Owen is exactly the type of character that Duncan needs, and makes Duncan the better character because of it. I thought that Will had some really good moments in his argument, but I thought Jack overall just did better upping Owen than Mr. Bruner. So, Brian, your vote doesn't count. Where would you have gone and why?
I also would vote Jack for pretty much all the same reasons. I do think that this was a tough one for a speed round question, because I think with more time, when they can go into more depth about, why they're the best character, not just basically explaining who they are, that, Will probably could have built a bigger case for himself, but Jack took it in the end.
All right, so that means your winner is Jack Pinchuk. We're going to start by talking to Will. Will, great match. I think I voted for you a lot in this one. But on the couple points that I did vote for Jack, it just turned out that those were the ones that he got the points on and was able to take the game. I think you played really, really well. I think it was a marked improvement from your first debate, so I will be happy to see you come back again, maybe next season. So, how are you feeling in this one?
I will concur that I don't think that this is the that last question is one that should have been used for a speed round, especially with a takedown like that, because anyone who's actually seen the film knows that Nadine wasn't really suicidal. She was just being really, really overly dramatic, like a teen girl does. And because I went last, there's no way I could have countered that. And so since you have to go by the arguments, I knew for a fact I was done. There was no way in hell I was getting any votes in that round. With that being said, I'm just happy that since I understood the format better, versus it's definitely a mark. There's some. This definitely is a better performance, I will say. Debate is one of those things that's like really hit or miss for me, because like you have to prepare so dramatically different than you do with trivia, especially, and where. Especially with questions like these, watching the movies would have just, if you just like watch the movie straight, it wouldn't have done dick for you. And so you had, so crafting an argument is extremely difficult with these. And so, hats off to Jack for, being quite the competitor. He came in, didn't take those 2 point losses to heart, and then came back and won 3 points in a row. That's impressive. No matter how we spin it. So, being 0-2 sucks, but at the same time, I'm sure there are people who are 0-2, and if you stick one of them against me, I don't think they're going to have a very good day. But we'll see what happens.
We do have some people, and we'll talk later. Will, great job today. I think you played great. And also, in the words of Ross Geller, don't blame the questions. We're gonna bring in Mr. Jack Pinchuk. Jack, you won a match. You looked shocked every time you hit a point, so that's fun. And you're moving on in the title picture. How are you feeling?
I feel really good. I was kind of down about losing the Les Mis and YA questions, the musicals and YA questions, and I had to say some absolute bullshit about Ingrid Bergman in The Visit, and that's arguably her best performance. But I'm just happy I won. I thought I was going to get KO'd again, which it seemed like that's what it was going to be. But you know what? I'm just happy I won, because I wasn't sure if debate was like the right division for me. But hey, I took it to the speed round, and Will had some really good arguments, and I thought I was done on the third question. I thought he was winning that, and then I won that and brought it to the fourth, and it was just a very it was a mental roller coaster for me, but I'm just glad I was able to pull the win out.
Jack, you're moving on. You're going up against one of two people. You're either going to be you're going up against the winner of next week's match, which is going to be either Chadwick Webb or teammate Alex Martinez.
I love Alex to death. I do. He's one of my best friends in this community. I don't want to debate against him because I debate against him almost daily in just group chats and whatnot, and in messages and whatever.
Sounds like a healthy friendship.
Yes, very healthy. About as healthy as Jacob and Bella. But no. He's just so difficult for me to debate against. He's very he's just got a different style that I don't know how to debate against all that well. Chadwick, I've listened to his debate against Bill. I believe is who he lost against.
Yeah.
I think that would be a really fun match. Definitely be some interesting questions, interesting answers. But you know what? I'm just either one of them. It will be a fun match, but I hope I don't have to play Alex. Love you.
Awesome. All right, Jack. Well, great job today. You got the win on the record, and that's going to do it for us tonight at Fanzone Debate. So I want to thank Brian and Cody for hanging out with me for this one. Thank you to Mark and Kirk for writing questions as well. And let's get final thoughts from Brian. Brian.
Yeah, like I said, this one started off a little rough, especially for Jack. Like I said, I think it's just shaking up the cobwebs after not debating for a while. But like you said, he came back after losing 2 points. He kept in there and ended up winning the last 3, 2 of them by clean sweeps. So it was an interesting match.
Cody, final thoughts from you?
Yeah, I think I definitely had my thoughts going into this match of how this was going to go, because I know Jack gets pretty flustered sometimes when talking even about movies he likes. But he's able to shake off the cobwebs. I honestly believe Jack played a really great game today. I know he didn't win the second vote, but I voted for him. I thought that he turned it around after question 1 and was a completely different fighter, and was great to see. I think him versus either one of them is actually, he could possibly win either one of those matches, truth be told, because I think both of them are very new in debate too. And he has a style that kind of works. But I think it's overall a good performance, and I don't think Will has anything to shake his head. I think Will did a really good job. I think it just was a close fight.
Yeah. All right. So once again, thank you to Cody and Brian for judging. Thank you to Jack and Will for playing. I have been Tim. We'll see you guys next time with another great debate. But until then, have a good night. Bye.
There we go. Thank you very much. Please come again. We have a lot more groceries.